Get up out of your seats. Put your hands together. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome to the stage, Mr. Devin Gage.
Day number one, it's just me and where I'm coming from. Rites of passage and shadows on the sun. My people, I stand before you as a man with more true shit than he knows what to do with. I give it all to you, long as you can promise me this. When it's time, you will...
Oh man, I was really worried I was gonna have to wake you guys up this morning when I knew I was gonna be speaking first on the last day in Nashville. How many of you guys went out on Broadway last night? Yeah, I'm glad for Devon Brown to wake you guys up. So, like he said, my name is Devin Gage. I'm a specialist in building community, and I want to open today's event by introducing you to a woman named Dorothy Martin. And in 1954, Dorothy started gaining a lot of popularity. And she was gaining this popularity because she had a secret that nobody else knew. And that secret was that on December 22nd, of that very year, at the stroke of midnight, aliens were going to come down, cause a giant flood that would wipe out the human race, and Dorothy was going to be saved by this alien race and tasked with repopulating the earth. And if you wanted to join Dorothy in repopulating the earth, all you had to do was give up all of your worldly possessions, say goodbye to your friends and family, and join Dorothy in her community. The community was called the Seekers, and it started gaining a lot of popularity. Started spreading this message, and dozens of people joined her, gave up all of their things, probably got a goofy haircut, wore weird uniforms, and they waited excitedly for December 22nd at the stroke of midnight. And that day came, and that stroke of midnight went, and I think you guys know what happened. Aliens did not come down. The earth was not wiped out by a giant flood, and they were not given the task of repopulating the earth. Now, I don't know about you guys, but if I was a member of the Seekers, I would feel a little embarrassed. I would probably go back to my friends and family with my tail between my legs, asking for all my stuff back, apologizing for being a total weirdo, and just be completely like feeling an idiot. But that's not what happened. In fact, the exact opposite of that happened. Almost 100% of the members of this community stayed. They doubled down on their beliefs, and they started spreading the message even further with more conviction. They started saying it was because of the work, like, thanks guys, or you're welcome. It's because of the message that we spread, the aliens didn't come down, right? You should join us because we're doing some cool stuff. What's really interesting about the story was this caught the attention, the build-up to this caught the attention of a social psychologist named Leon Festinger, and he was studying a psychological phenomenon that he was hoping to validate with this whole thing. He was there the day of December 22nd in the community. And that theory was validated, and that theory was called cognitive dissonance. And I'm glad that Dan mentioned this yesterday because it segued well into what I'm going to talk about today. But cognitive dissonance is the mental discomfort we feel when we hold a belief or we act in a way that is incongruent with what we are seeing in front of us. What we are seeing is incongruent with the belief system that we have or the actions that we are taking. And what he determined was that when we have this mental discomfort, we are more likely to distort reality than we are to change our beliefs. We are more likely to change the perception of what we're seeing than we are to admit or change our actions. Because in our minds, we would say, I wouldn't be doing all of this if I didn't really believe this. So something out there must not be real, right? We see this in a lot of areas of life, most notably politics, but it happens in community as well. So, interesting story, right? These group of crazy people stayed when they should have left. But what does this have to do with your gym strategy? Well, this group of dozens and dozens of people, I believe the group got up to about 50 people, stayed when their entire prophecy failed. When everything they believed in didn't come true, they still stayed. How would you guys like client retention that looked like that? When your clients are so convicted, so committed, and bought into what you're doing that even with plenty of evidence or competitors down the road or reasons that they might want to leave, they still stay. That is the power of community. That is what happened in the Seekers. The Seekers stayed because they had developed a deep level of psychological commitment to their community. And that's what I want to teach you how to do in your business. But you see, this didn't happen overnight, right? Dorothy didn't, start spreading this message and people didn't come running, giving up all of their stuff on day one. This happened through a system called commitment escalation. So commitment escalation is where you take one small commitment, like hearing the message, and then a slightly larger until you are so committed, you're so convicted, you're acting in such a way that cognitive dissonance kicks in and it starts to say, I wouldn't be doing all of this if I didn't really believe in this. So I must really believe in this. What I'm talking about is designing and building a system of community inside of your business. And how you can systematically use commitment escalation inside of your gym to get people so bought in that they will be members for life. And they will speak your message with conviction, and they will be the greatest community members that you've ever had. Because here's what I believe. I believe that community in this day and age is the one advantage that will protect you from becoming a commodity in this industry. People can steal your workouts. People can copy your equipment. They can copy your training methodology, but they cannot steal the level and sense of community that you've built inside of your gym. I truly believe it is the one differentiator that you can have that will give you amazing success in business. And Devon did a great job introducing me, but I'll give you the overview. I started in 2012 in a small warehouse with homemade equipment with not a single client. We built that one location to $1.3 million in revenue with about 500 clients and have since opened 7 additional locations across the country. And the craziest thing about my business is it is nothing special. We are not doing anything super unique. Our workouts probably look a lot like yours. Our equipment looks a lot like yours. The only thing that we have doubled and tripled down on is a system of community building in our business. And the results speak for themselves. Across about 1,000 clients, we've been able to retain about a 96% retention rate in 8 locations for the businesses that are using this community system. And it's what I want to teach you how to do today. Okay? My promise is that if you install this in your business and you take even a fraction of this with you, it will be the key to industry-leading retention rates in your business. That is the power of building community inside of your gym in a systematic fashion. So before I get into this, I want to define community because there's a few different definitions out there. I'm going to use Charles Vogel. So he's one of the leading community experts. He's written a bunch of books on it. And he defines community as a group of individuals who share a mutual concern for one another's well-being. Right? Now, when we talk about scale and growth, what scale is better than that? When care for each other does not come just top down. It's not wholly reliant on how good you are as a coach or how much your director cares. It's spread laterally, where people care for one another. That's what makes community sticky and powerful and impactful. So there's 3 things that I want to go over and teach you guys how to do today. Number 1 is I want to teach you what most people get backwards about building community. Number 2 is I want to teach you the actual way that you can install a community system in your business and exactly the ways that we use it in our business and the results that come with that. And finally, I want to teach you how you can scale that system to either a much bigger location that runs, on its own or into multiple locations. Sound good? All right. So, what do most people get backwards about community? I want you to picture this. All right? I'm a big on tactics, so I want to have, make sure you guys leave with plenty of notes and things that you can take action on. I want you to picture this, and this is going to be unique for everybody's gym. I want you to picture your best clients ever. The clients that if you could just copy and paste this person 100 times, you would do it every single day. Right? Think about who that person is. What are the behaviors that they show in your business. If you're like mine, they probably wear your apparel. They probably buy your supplements. They probably have friends in the gym and they develop friends. They're the people welcoming new members. They probably show up to your social events or your fundraisers or your company outings. They're all a staple at those events. They probably refer people. And they damn sure write 5-star reviews. How many of you guys have clients that look like that? How many of you guys would like more clients that look like that? Yeah, I call these the community behaviors of highly committed clients. But here's the problem. What most people get backwards about building community is they believe highly committed clients participate in these behaviors. They do them, they wear your apparel, buy your supplements, refer their friends because they love your gym. What I'm here to tell you is that it's the opposite. It is participating in these behaviors that builds committed clients, that builds a psychological commitment through cognitive dissonance, because when you can get people to take action, they start to believe they are more committed. Okay? We're talking about a system of cognitive dissonance, but the good kind, not the culty, weird way. Okay? I mean, if you're into that, that's cool too. But that's exactly the key to building community in your business, is leveraging this idea of cognitive dissonance. Because at the root, behavior shapes belief, not the other way around. And this is what most people get backwards. They hope that they can just get clients to really like their gym, and then they'll do all these things. But it is, in fact, getting people to do these things and creating the conditions for these things to happen that builds your most committed clients. Are you guys following that? Now, I'm not making any of this up. This comes from a really popular social psychological phenomenon called the social identity cycle theory, which states that when somebody holds an identity, they're likely and inclined to act in congruence with that identity by participating in certain behaviors, right? Your gym members participate in gym member stuff, and when they're validated based on those behaviors, they're rewarded in some way, it builds more of an identity, all right? But here's what I've determined or seen. This theory on its own, right, as it's illustrated, doesn't exactly work in our gyms, at least in mine. Because I work with the over 40 fat loss population. How many of you guys have that same population? Or over 40, over 50, men and women? They're not your typical gym goers. They don't identify as gym people at the start. So if you're relying on them to identify as a gym person, to participate in gym person activities, you're going to have a really hard time hoping for that to happen. So what I'm proposing is that we tweak that model. That we start with the participation and creating the conditions for participation to happen. We validate and reward that participation, and that builds the identity. And that is the starting point for building a community. And that's what I want to teach you today, is how to create conditions for people to participate that will build your most committed and convicted clients. All right? So, number 2, I want to teach you how we do that, how we install these behaviors and create these conditions. And to do so, I want to show you a model that I've created that we use in our gyms that I call the 4 layers, or the 4 levels of community behavior. Okay? Because it's one thing to have one client that's just all in from day one, but that doesn't typically happen. All right? Remember, it takes commitment escalation, where people take micro commitment after micro commitment. And I've titled these the 4 levels, which starts with just the threshold of entry into your community, followed by voluntary engagement, which we'll talk about more, identity and artifacts, and the deepest level is a sense of contribution and social vulnerability. So what is the threshold of entry? So the threshold of entry is, what is the difference between an insider and an outsider in your community? All right, this is the most basic one. It's inherent to all of your businesses. It should be, at least. If it's not, you join the Iron Circle and they'll probably teach you how to do that. But it looks like this, right? It's basic stuff. It's signing a membership agreement. It is paying for their membership, right? Having your name come up on their credit card statement. It's showing up. Or it's downloading whatever app or scheduling system that you use. That's a threshold behavior. Nobody does this better than this photo right here. So this photo comes from Burning Man, the Burning Man Festival. Full disclosure, I've never been to Burning Man. I hope to attend one day. But when you go to Burning Man, the lore suggests that you wait hours and hours of car lines to get to the front gate, and they ask you if this is your first time at Burning Man. And if the answer is yes, they say, get out of the car, roll around in the dirt for about 30 seconds, and you get all dirty and sweaty and muddy, and they say, welcome to Burning Man. We're hot, it's dirty, we're sweaty, we're all in this together. It's an initiation ritual that separates the non-Burning Man attendees to the initiated Burning Man people. It's a shared initiation that everybody can feel a sense of community around, right? How can you build more of an initiation ritual into your threshold of entry? Okay, how can you ritualize that? And this can be big, it can be as small as we do it. We keep it as simple as a membership card. When a member joins, they get their name put on a membership card with the date that they joined, and it's something for them to take home, right? This could be much bigger in your businesses. A lot of what we talk about is going to be, you're going to have to find what's unique and relevant to your company. But how can you ritualize that entry point and really create the divide between what is an insider and what is an outsider? That's the goal of this level of community behavior. So I want to make sure you guys leave with some actions. I want you guys to think, again, this one's, it can be kind of simple, right? It could be your onboarding structure. But take a minute, come up with 1 to 3 ideas that you could ritualize or go even further into what you're already doing. And this could be something that you have to install inside of your business or just turn up the notch a little bit. So take about 30 seconds and come up with 1 to 3 things, because the goal here is I want to help you build this system into your business. All right, let's move on. We'll have more time for workshoppy stuff. So the second level of community behavior, right, that next notch of commitment that you can ask your community to take is what I call voluntary engagement. Voluntary engagement are when people start participating in things outside of what's written in their membership agreement. It's outside of just the sessions that they're paying for, the nutrition coaching that they're, is included in their membership. Okay? So one of the best examples that we use in our locations is the GST Olympics, the Gauge Strength Training Olympics. This is a completely voluntary event. It's a chance for people to participate. It's accessible to every single member. And we invite the whole community to come out either as an athlete or a volunteer or a spectator. But all of these behaviors, all of these elements are measurable community behaviors that you can start to measure in your business, right? How do you get somebody to participate in a voluntary engagement with your company, right? So I have examples, right? They could be social events. Like, we're a big happy hour crowd, right? We do a lot of happy hours and things like that. It could be challenges. Somebody mentioned challenges, internal challenges, right? Can you set a KPI for percentage of your members that sign up for your challenges? It could be something like using the InBody. We have InBodies in all of our locations. Could be whatever, Keynote Tech or whatever measurement devices that you might have. All right, how do you create conditions for people to use these things outside of just the standard membership? Another deeper one is, do they have friends in the gym? Right? That's a measurable community behavior. If you can identify members of your gym and you say, that person doesn't have a friend here, how do we introduce them to somebody so it makes them more committed to our community, right? And another one is, and I use Facebook. We have a Facebook community members group. How many of you guys use Facebook as a members Facebook community group? If you don't use Facebook, I highly suggest having some sort of centralized gathering place for your community, especially with the small group model. It's not inherent for community to be built. Right? If people are coming to one session with 4 other people and that's the only exposure they have, right? You want to design some sort of intentional community, like a town hall gathering place for them. Okay? We use Facebook, but there's other, Circle and other things that you can use. So the goal now is to create the conditions to intentionally get participation, right? We don't just want to hope that we create these things and hope that people do them, right? We want to take intentional action towards them. So social events, can you personally invite everybody that's never been to a social event or hasn't been this year to the next event? Do you need to host events, right? Do you need to personally invite or set a goal for percentage of your members that participate in some challenges? Because, yeah, there's business benefit to doing these challenges. They're going to get good results and, probably develop some good habits. But the real benefit is in the conviction and commitment they feel because they're voluntarily engaging outside of just the norm. That's the power, right? So all these have intentional ways that you can create these conditions, right? Measurement devices. InBody has a great online dashboard. You can see what clients have not done an InBody or need to do an InBody, so you can intentionally invite them to do so if they haven't. Do they have friends? Like I said, can you introduce them to somebody else in the gym that they might develop a friendship with, right? I love it when clients show up early and walk around the parking lot or stay late or go out on their own from the friendships that they've created. And guess what? Those clients never leave. They never leave. They never leave the gym sometimes, but they don't cancel their memberships because this is something they're very committed to. Okay? And then can you, again, set a KPI for percentage of members that join your Facebook members group or whatever group you have? Are you measuring that? Right? So these are just 2 examples. Again, another one is we've gotten really into these DECA events, Spartan races. That's a voluntary engagement, and when people wear our shirts at the events, right, that's a totally voluntary thing, and it's a measurable community behavior. So your goal with this level of community behavior is how do you get the client to spend more time with your brand outside of just their sessions, right? So come up with 1 to 3 ideas for ways that you can install this, all right? We're going to talk, I have a lot of personal examples, but again, there's stuff that's going to be only relevant to your business. Some might land, some might not. So it's important for you guys to take what's going to be relevant to you guys. So take another couple seconds and start thinking about what are 1 to 3 things that are voluntary engagements that you could either install in your gym and then create conditions for them to take part in. All right, moving on. The next is where we really start to build an identity in our people. And not only do we build an identity, we want to give them artifacts of that identity that reminds them of that identity. Now, this is one of my favorite campaigns that we ran or tricks that we did in my gym. Man, it would not be a fitness event if the clicker worked 100% of the time. There it is. So we've created challenge coins. So for a long period of time, this is actually before we rebranded, when a new member joined, every single member did our 21-day jumpstart. It was our paid front-end offer. And the day that they signed up, we would put this coin in a jewelry box, and I would tape it up. And I would, have a little bit of theatrics behind it, and I would chase them out as they were leaving the gym. And I would say, hey, wait, before you go, I have this gift for you. You can't open it until the end of our 21-day program. And they get all like, whoa, what is it? And they get all kind of excited. And they're like, how are you going to do that to me? I was like, just put it in your glove box. We'll call you at the end of this program and remind you to open it. And they would leave all excited. And this is what the coin had. It was a steel coin, had our logo on the one side. On the back, it said, your commitment to your health has put you in the top 10% of all people that wanted to get in shape. I'll be honest, I made that up. It's probably not far off, right? If you finish 21 days of like workouts and personal training, it's probably not far off from the general population. But the idea here is we're giving an opportunity for somebody to say, I am, in regards to your business. I am a 10%er, right? I am a gym person. So if you go back, if you look back at that post, That was shared years after a woman got that. She stumbled upon it and took a photo and shared it, okay? Later in that post that got cut off, right, she mentioned, I never thought I would be a gym person, but here I am, okay? The I am is is incredibly powerful community behavior inside of your gym. So how do you create more opportunities for people to say, I am, and identify with your company? So these are, again, just examples, things that we do, and I'm going to give you more specifics. But is there a level system, right? Like a martial arts belt system. I am a black belt, okay? Can you install an ascension program that has titles that they can earn? Are there achievements that they can unlock in your business that you can recognize on a regular basis? You know, again, now we get into artifacts. If they take home supplements, that's an artifact that reminds them that they are a gym person, right? If they have your supplement sitting on their counter, shout out Gym Sups, right? It's an artifact that they are a member of your gym. If they wear your apparel, it's going to trigger Kai. I wouldn't be repping this if I didn't really believe that I was into this stuff, okay? Right? And find any way to take up real estate inside of their home, right? So again, how do you reverse engineer these things? Because it's one thing to have a rack with shirts, it's one thing to have supplements, but it's another thing to say, what percentage of my clients have a shirt that wears it? Right? What percentage of our clients buy supplements? And reach out to that person that you know has not bought a supplement, give them a free sample, create all the conditions for them to take part in that behavior, because it's taking part that will build a sense of commitment and probably repeat buyers. So this is just one example. This is our level system. So clients can earn points for every workout that they attend inside the gym. If they refer a friend, which is a community behavior we want to incentivize, they can score even more points. Getting onto the board gives them a title. They're a GST fam member, and it gives them a colored sticker that's our logo. The next, threshold of points they can unlock, they reach another level. I am a veteran member. I am a legend member. I'm a Hall of Fame member. All right? So it gives somebody constantly something to be striving towards, but at the root, it gives them an identity in the business. And it's the artifact that we send them home with is the colored sticker that they usually put on a water bottle that they bring to the gym. So here's a few other ways that we've done this. And again, I'm using these examples because it doesn't have to be that serious. It doesn't have to be like some really serious system. It can be something silly. So we have a big, 150-pound kettlebell in our gyms. And in some of our locations call it Big Bertha. And when we get our 65-year-old lady that can deadlift the Big Bertha kettlebell, she gets a Big Bertha sticker, and now she's Big Bertha certified, and now we start talking about using a trap bar, right? That's an artifact that they can take home to remind them of what they're doing in the gym. We have a cable stack, so when somebody can lift the whole stack in the cable, they unlock full stacks, and we give them a full stack sticker, right? It's just an artifact. It's silly. Dan talked shit on stickers yesterday. We're a big sticker company. It's silly, but it's just one thing, right? Another one is a certified ass kicker. This means absolutely nothing except our staff is like, we need to get that person to take home an artifact or to assume an identity. So let's give them an ass kicker card. And again, there's some theatrics. We go up to the client and we write their name on it. We're like, hey, just want to let you know we were talking about you in the staff meeting and we just think you kick ass. Here you go. And that's it. There's nothing else to it. But it's something they put in their wallet, and it reminds them of the gym, and it also gives them, I am an ass kicker, right? So what conditions can you create to make this level of community behavior possible? And then we've got the challenge coins too. And this is another one that we've done in the past. So we have a refrigerator magnet that's a personal PR board. So clients can take that home. We would give these out with a mini dry erase marker, and they could track their own weights. There's a family hype board if their kids want to share love for them, right? But it takes up real estate in their home, gives them a chance to reflect and think positively about their progress in the gym, and it's a level of commitment that they take when they take something from your gym and put it in their house alongside their kids' artwork. So the whole goal of this level of community behavior is to create as many opportunities and chances for them to say, I am, in regards to your business, in regards to the work that you do. And to take up real estate in their home, right? Even if you just have to make up achievements that you can like create little stickers for, right? What's going to be relevant to your business? So maybe it's something that you're already doing that you might just need to create some artifacts around, or, and this is what I'm going to hopefully teach you, is how to measure these things. How to measure like when somebody is or has not assumed an identity in your business. So take a minute, think of a couple things that would be relevant to your business. So let's move on, because now we are deep in the weeds of client commitment. The fourth level, the most powerful behaviors that you can get your clients to participate in are when they feel a sense of contribution to the community and they put their social status in a vulnerable position for your brand. To emphasize this point, I want to share a few things. I want to say something. I brought members of my team here. Remember my team? You want to raise your hands? Everybody knows you can be affiliated with me. I told some friends to come. If I told you guys to come here, raise your hand. Thank you. Appreciate it. Why would I bring my team here? Why would I share this event on my social media? On the surface, you might say, like, I really like Tim Lyons. I really think this is a great event, and I think it's going to be cool. The truth is, and the true reason people refer to your business is a little bit darker. People refer because it's going to make them look better. It's going to enhance their personal social currency. It's going to make them look better if they bring somebody from their network into your business that has a great experience, because now the people in their social circle are going to look at you and you are going to be held to a higher value. I would not have brought my team, I would not have put this event out if I thought they were going to leave thinking it was a waste of time. At the root, I brought my team because I know they're going to leave with a stack of notes, they're going to leave with more value, and they are going to look at me as a higher value person in their social circle. I am reliable. I am somebody that provides value. That is why people refer to your business. And it's one of the most powerful things that if you can understand this concept of social currency will really elevate your business, specifically in referrals and social proof like writing reviews and stuff. So the fourth level, right, are when people take on contribution roles. They take on roles that contribute to the community, or they risk their social capital to promote you. They stick their neck on the line by telling their friends, which if their friends have a bad experience, they will suffer in their psychological social society, their tribe. So the two ways that we do this in our business are creating opportunities for people to contribute. And some of it's formal in a leadership role or a mentorship role. Some of it's informal, and I'll share that. And creating conditions for people to refer and make public statements of affiliation with our company. So just a few examples. Again, this is endless. These are just what we use in our company. So we create mentorship and leadership opportunities in our gyms where people can take on roles they feel contribute to other people, right? When we talk about the definition of community as a mutual concern for one another's welfare. Next is like examples like somebody just posting actively in our Facebook group. That's a measurable community behavior. Facebook members group or the Facebook community groups have some analytics that you can track. Who are your top promoters? Who is completely disengaged? What percentage of the members of your group are engaged? These are measurable KPIs that you can look at in your business. You can look at what clients have brought referrals and how can you identify people that have not brought referrals and ask them for them, or target specifically somebody that you know, like, hey, Susie, you said your husband works for a big local company. We would love to do something with them and organize that. Just the act of them generating a referral taps into cognitive dissonance, because they're going to say, I wouldn't bring my friends or tell people about this place if I didn't really love it. So I can't leave. I'm telling my friends to come. Right? It's an incredibly deep psychological commitment when people start referring people to your business. And it's similar with Google reviews. I think Dan said this the other day. Just making a public affirmation that they like your business triggers cognitive dissonance, and they would say, I wouldn't say this if I didn't really believe it. Okay? And then, again, can they share your content on social media platforms? So how do you reverse engineer these behaviors? I mean, I kind of touched on a lot of these, but you can create roles for them and invite them to participate in them. And I'll give you examples from mine. Can you tag people? This is one of my favorite things to do. Can you tag disengaged members in your Facebook group with content that's going to be valuable to them to create the condition for them to engage? Right? If you've got a client that you're like, man, I got to get them engaging in our members group, and maybe they're a vegetarian, and you tag them in a vegan protein post, and you say, hey, I was thinking about you, I saw this. Does anybody else have ideas for getting more protein on a vegan diet? Right? They might not take the bait, but it's at least an intentional movement towards that. Right? Making referrals as easy as possible. All right? Not just handing out a card and you hope that it comes back to you someday, but creating the conditions for referrals to be as easy and seamless as possible. Same thing with Google reviews. Okay? Holding somebody, just be write the review right now. Right in front of me. Don't take this home. And then sharing social media content on their platforms for you. All right? That's a big commitment. When they start sharing your stuff, right? So you got to create stuff for them to share and then ask them to share it. So 2 systems that we've used in our businesses. Number 1 is we call member mentors. So when members reach a certain level of community, conviction and commitment, we invite them to be a member mentor where there's all kinds of perks. They get a t-shirt, they get entry into our challenges for free. But in exchange, they have to help promote our challenges. They have to share our content on social media. They have to be open to meeting new members and coming to events with us, right? It's a real, there's a legitimate commitment involved, right? So is there something like that in your business? Now, you don't want to give away the farm. You don't want to make it give them discounted memberships or anything like that. But you want to make an incentive for them to be a part of it and have a status around it. Another really easy one is we had what we call the welcoming committee. So we'd select a handful of members and we'd say, hey, we want to put you on the welcoming committee. You're always welcoming new clients in. So whenever a new member joins, we're going to copy you on an email with them, and we just ask that you reach out, act as kind of a mentor, let them know that you're there if they have questions or they're confused, or maybe you can schedule a workout together so they can make a friend, right? You're tapping multiple levels here, because now maybe they'll make a friend, right? But you're creating a contribution role where people are going to say, man, I wouldn't be doing all this extra work for this gym if I didn't love this place. So here's some fun and some silly examples. This is that top left is that example of a guy. He's a vegetarian. At one point, he was not super active in our Facebook group. And I had a conversation. I was like, hey, man, there's a lot of vegetarians and vegans in the gym. You do a really good job getting enough protein. I'd love it if you shared that in our community group, right? Again, there's value in him sharing it, but the real value is the commitment that he feels by contributing to the community. He's going to get good vibes from that, right? Underneath that is a member that organized and self-promoted. He led a DecaFit team. All right, that's a role. That's a leadership role in my business. Right? That guy's not going anywhere because now he's got a role in our company. Right? And again, could be formal, could be very informal. The top right is one of our member mentors. She's shouting out a member that came back. Again, taking on a role of contributing to the community by sharing good vibes, sharing a shout out. Usually that's something that coaches do. But now we have members that have a mutual concern for one another's welfare. Now the bottom, that's me learning how to knit. For a while, we did a member masterclass where we looked at members that had special skills or they had really good careers in whatever industry, and we would invite them to host a workshop. And this woman knew how to knit, and she was really involved with knitting baby hats for the local NICU. So we had 30 people show up to learn how to knit and knit baby hats. How many levels of community behavior does that hit? right? Everybody there felt a sense of contribution. They made friends, had a couple beers, they learned a skill, and that woman took on a leadership role. The one on the bottom right, we had another client that was a hairstylist, and we organized a father-daughter hair class. And we had like 10 guys bring their daughters in and learn how to like braid hair. And that tapped a lot of community behaviors as well, right? The dads got a sense of contribution and making friends and feeling like they were learning a skill. And the hairstylist took on a leadership role and contributed to the community, right? So again, some silly examples, some formal, some informal, but the whole idea here is giving members a chance to feel a sense of contribution and give them opportunities to promote your business to their network, okay? Again, it could just be bringing referrals. It could just be writing a Google review. That's the simple one. But what are 1 to 3 things that you could do in your business that can help create the conditions for these behaviors to take place? So I've given you a lot of shit. I've given you a lot of stuff, right? And I know leaving events like this, you've got a lot of stuff. You've got mountains of notes. You probably got a full notebook already, right? I don't want to leave you with just a bunch of stuff, right? I want to teach you how to make sense of some of this and how to build this into your business. This is where we really start talking about how to scale this idea of community, this idea of the 4 levels of community behavior. We're going to put it all together. So I want to recap first. We talked about the social identity cycle theory. That's what all this is built on. We talked about starting with creating the conditions for participation, rewarding that participation, and that's what builds the identity. That's what builds a committed client, right? And remember, you can't force people to do these things. You can't force referrals. You can't force people to voluntarily attend the Olympics, right? But you can create the conditions. I hope you've wrote that down by now. You can create the conditions to make these actions easy and reward them for taking them. So early on in my research into building community, I stumbled across a guy named Douglas Atkin. And he wrote a book called The Culting of Brand. And this book completely changed my life. He talked about how a lot of big brands use the same strategy as religions and cults to use to build commitment and conviction in their membership. And he created this model. And this is where it all kind of is able to be put together. This is what he titled the commitment curve. And the idea is, it's simply illustrated, right? Over a period of time, if you get people to take slightly more and more commitments or greater commitments, they're going to achieve new levels of commitment in your business, from the initiation phase to being passive, active, and a power member. And if you go a period of time and people don't take those next commitments, they become inactive, and that's where you run the risk of poor retention and losing clients. So this is our commitment curve. So this is the commitment curve for my business. It's everything that we just talked about, maybe a few extras, right? And the time periods that we set a goal to get clients to participate in, right? In the first week, they've got to join the Facebook group. They have to show up to sessions. They have to download our app. That's their initiation. Weeks 1 to 4, right? We want them to use the InBody scan once or twice. We want them to, sign up for some sort of challenge with us, or, take part in our level up system. Months 2 to 6, right? It becomes a problem when we see people that don't show up to social events. They have not taken home anything that takes up real estate in their home. They're not active in our Facebook members group, right? When that starts to happen, we start to get red flags, behavioral red flags for a client that's not taking that next step of commitment. And the highest, most powerful level, like we talked about, was when they take on mentorship and leadership roles. They contribute actively in the gym in some capacity. They've referred friends, and they wrote a Google review. Now, listen, not everybody's going to do all these things, not by a long shot, right? But the key here, and the message that I want to take you home with, is these are all measurable, right? You can look at your client base, and you can build your model, and you can start looking at a client and saying, what boxes do they check and what don't they check? And how do we invite them to participate and check more of these boxes. All right? So this is what your worksheet might look like. Right? You've identified 1 to 3 behaviors at each level of community inside of your gym, and this becomes how you reflect on the level of commitment that your people have. And then when do you do these things? So we run and install a quarterly community audit. So every quarter, and I'll show you the actual system, and I'll give you guys the chance to download it. But we audit all of our members based on the commitments that we hope that they are taking in our gym. Right? You can use CRM systems for this. All right? There's things like contact scoring that you can build systems for. But for gyms that are of a small enough size, 100, 120 clients, it's easy enough to just look at clients and know, all right, they have our app, they're in the members group, they haven't wrote a Google review. This week, let's set a goal to get them to write a review. Right? Get them to check that box. So in our business, it looks like this when we put it all together. So we do a quarterly audit where we outline the voluntary engagements, right? The identity and artifacts that we want to elicit that behavior of. And then we put every member in there. We upload all of our members' names, and we run through who's in the group, who's not. How do we get that to take that action? Who's referred a friend? Who hasn't? How do we get them to refer, right? This becomes a team effort to say, hey, Sarah has not referred a friend. She's at that time period in her membership. I know she's got a husband. Let's try to get her husband in, right? Or her kids for our athlete program, right? So this is exactly the system that we use. I have this for you guys to download. Before I do, I want to end with this. I've talked about the business benefit of community, right? What it can do for your revenue, what it'll do for your client retention specifically. But truly what I feel is the biggest impact of community is what it'll do for you, the entrepreneur. Because building a business is fucking hard. I've got 8 gyms. I feel like I get kicked in the teeth every single day, putting out fires or facing the next challenge all the time. And I'm sure you guys feel the same way. If you didn't, you probably wouldn't be here. But I also know that I started in this industry because I had my whole heart and soul was like in it for the right reasons. I wanted to make an impact in my clients' lives. I wanted to change lives. And what I realized, and the fear that I believe a lot of people have, or the realization that they have, the subconscious limiting belief, is as you start to scale to a bigger team, to a bigger location or multiple locations, it's hard to feel that impact. It's easy to feel like you start to lose the heart and soul that you had in the first place because you don't get the touch points, you don't see it in front of you as much every day, you can't be in multiple locations. But that's exactly the benefit and the advantage of community and designing a system for community. It allows you to maintain the same heart and soul that you had when you started your business as you scale. And I know that's what keeps me going. Knowing that community is the one competitive advantage that we have is the thing that keeps me going every single day, and I know it'll do the same thing for you. So I have these for you to download. Before I do, I have a little bit of a paywall. I want you to subscribe to my podcast. And I'm always looking to get better on stage if you want to give me some feedback on my talk today. But that's what I got for you guys. Thank you so much.